But look, what did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away.
It is the show that people love to hate.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
They get so much hate watching and hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies-infested henhouse.
Even Sunny Hostin was taken aback by Joe Rogan's brutally honest revelation. The drama doesn't stop there, though. Charlie Kirk has accelerated the proceedings by filing a huge lawsuit for $100 million, making the entire affair resemble a legal thriller. On television, chaos broke out in the most surprising way, and the reactions that followed had the internet buzzing. There are some who are genuinely reconsidering everything, others who are astonished, and still others who are laughing. You really don't want to miss this confrontation.
The reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit this last week.
Yeah, they have nothing else to talk about. Maybe you should get the lawyer that worked on that Covington Catholic school case. What was that, like $200 million?
You think daytime? TV has reached its climax with celebrity feuds and embarrassing political viewpoints. And then all of a sudden, The View is sued for $100 million. Yes, exactly. Charlie Kirk, the vocal politician who has been in the news for a while, has made one of the most audacious legal challenges morning television has ever seen. Let's just say that the ensuing situation was messier than a Thanksgiving dinner quarrel. In the family,
Shift between right and left authoritarianism. And now people don't recognize that if you just stop looking at it in terms of red and blue, look at the actions, whether it's war, suppression of free speech, pharmacological interventions that are mandatory, whatever it is, that used to all be associated with the authoritative right, the authoritarian right. And now those things are being embraced by the left. And I just think it's just an ideology thing. And I think we get confused and we think we're on the right side. We're on the right side. And if it's our side that's saying this, for sure that's the right thing to do. And no one's critically thinking about this.
Joe Rogan is the gateway drug for young men that thought they were Democrats to become MAGA. Joe Rogan is the bridge. And on that bridge, they'll see RFK. They'll see...
Let's take some time to understand its size and its entirety. A decline in Twitter followers does not translate into a loss of $100 million. It's the kind of figure that makes you consider starting your own low-budget Mars expedition, or investing in popcorn empires. Charlie Kirk decided to point that enormous figure directly at The View, a daytime talk program that is well known for its flurry of divergent viewpoints, celebrity chit-chat, and political perspectives that occasionally hit harder than they land, rather than space or snacks.
He's the founder and CEO of Turning Point USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept The View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here. They went after our 5,000 students at our event there of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them because someone at ABC says that they might be...
What? Then, caused this enormous lawsuit. We're not talking about a little Twitter dispute or a poorly executed meme. Reckless remarks made about The View are said to have contributed to this. The kind of comments that allegedly went beyond a heated viewpoint and into the realm of a full-fledged legal catastrophe, rather than merely igniting controversy. Do you know how watching TV throughout the day can occasionally resemble a boisterous high school lunch table where people are yelling at one another to be heard? That may have gone too far this time, and now they find themselves in the midst of a major legal battle.
Gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
We did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men actually voting more for him. And you have, and black men was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice.
Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men and allegedly give birth or whatever.
Among the hosts, the Sunny host is in the public eye, or, perhaps more accurately, under the legal microscope. With a strong foundation in justice and the law, she is no stranger to controversy, although she is frequently the panel's authoritative voice. In this instance, her legal acumen did not prevent her from being the spokesperson for what detractors refer to as reckless criticism. Sunny was the main suspect in the crime of careless speaking. If anyone was supposed to contribute subtlety and thoughtful analysis, she is currently the target of attacks. This is when the wonderful irony comes in. The podcast king, Joe Rogan, who loves to wrestle with contentious issues, dives headfirst into this quagmire. Rogan is renowned for his unvarnished, brutally honest manner, which combines humor, skepticism, and occasionally outright roasting. The internet as a whole leaned in, anticipating the fireworks. When he focused on this litigation and Sunny Host's involvement in it, Rogan delivered a tidal wave of sardonic takedowns and scathing mockery in place of a dry legal analysis or dull commentary. His analysis went beyond simply analyzing the lawsuit's merits. The careless manner in which The View reportedly handled this matter was completely demolished. Imagine a public roasting workshop where every remark cuts through the typical daytime TV nonsense and finds the mark.
For Joy Behar, if I saw her, I'd give her a hug. I'd probably say the same thing about me if I was her. You're worried about losing your job, and you're worried about who's the source of news, and we said Donald Trump was Hitler, but half the country disagreed with us, and he won, and this is fucking great, and Joe Rogan believes in
As the contrarian voice that he is known for. Joe Rogan didn't merely nod in passing to Charlie Kirk. He wholeheartedly supported the lawsuit's main points, portraying it as a much-needed reality check for a media organization that, in his view, handles grave allegations like a raucous debate over who can make the loudest noise. Rogan contended that the perspective was the one who needed a dose of accountability the most, and Sunny Hostin was prominently displayed as the embodiment of that carelessness. He didn't require a frontal confrontation or a contentious live debate, which made his attack even more scathing. He just made use of the resources available to him, by emphasizing the purported facts, pushing the absurdity to the limit, and transforming the situation into something straight out of a satire. He demonstrated his extensive podcast platform, astute online presence, and scathing sense of humor. Rogan presented the position as an impending legal disaster. On New Year's Eve, a group of pundits are flinging explosive allegations about like confetti. He began by highlighting the scope of the litigation. The sum of $100 million is not merely a striking figure. It's a daring indication that careers and reputations are on the line. However, their response appears oddly unconcerned, as though they were immune to criticism and thought they could avoid any repercussions. Then, the program that prides itself on encouraging intelligent, serious discourse was now accused of making possibly harmful statements without supporting evidence or careful consideration. Rogan compared it to a doctor making a diagnosis solely based on a horoscope that
is that show has this very specific ideological bubble in which they operate in. You know, and they always bring on a token conservative woman and they yell over her and silence her. And, you know, they did that with Meghan McCain, and they did that with what is the other blonde woman from Survivor? Do you remember her, Jamie? She was always yelling. I mean, it's just, it's a bizarre show. I think the way before you start, I think the way you described it is brilliant, and the way we should all look at it. Of course, you're going to see race. The idea of being colorblind is ridiculous, but treat everybody. They're just human beings. Everybody's just individual.
That isn't exactly a boost to confidence. With her extensive knowledge of law, Sunny Host was supposed to be the voice of reason and the one to keep everything in perspective. However, the complaint suggests that even she might have gone too far with her remarks. The irony was immediately apparent to Joe Rogan, who pointed out that the panel's legal expert was suddenly involved in what might turn out to be a major legal mess. It was the sort of poetic turn of events that authors dream of but seldom see in such a public setting. Rogan was full of sarcasm, teasing the show's unbridled audacity as well as the stark discrepancy between its grandiose assertions and reality. He portrayed the situation as a legal minefield in which any casual comment may be the catalyst for a major scandal. The distinction between hazardous behavior and adventurous journalism became hazy as what appeared to be brave broadcasting began to resemble a lawsuit magnet. What's really fascinating is the possible impact this case could have on daytime television as a whole. The impromptu, free-form approach that made The View popular could suddenly be scrutinized. Imagine a world in which talk show hosts hesitate before offering their opinions, not out of caution, but rather because the cost of legal fees is outpacing the number of celebrity appearances. Rogan's viewpoint also alluded to a larger media revolution in which independent platforms and podcasts, equipped with fewer censors and a wider audience, are becoming the new influencers influencing public opinion.
Very strange show, but it's fun to watch. It's just fun to watch them.
It's good entertainment.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly.
Well, they're just, you know, it's interesting because I think Sunny is very intelligent, but she's ideologically captured.
Right.
that's sort of, I think the other ones, there's a couple of the other ones don't have to name any names, who are just very dull-minded. But I think Sunny's not one of them. I think she's smart but captured.
Sure, I think she came into it with a...
Of course. They do everything with it.
More than simply drama is indicated when someone like Joe Rogan publicly undermines the legitimacy of a popular TV program and lends his support to a lawsuit. It implies that the dominant forces in traditional media might be losing ground, or, at the very least, coming under intense pressure. It wasn't only commentary when Rogan took down Sunny Hostin. A full-fledged spectacle ensued. Through the defense, like a wrecking ball through paper and unappealing nuance. Rogan didn't enter the conversation silently like a sly burglar. Using humor and icy logic like giant demolition tools, he charged in like a fully costumed His primary remarks were blunt and to the point, pointing out how a show that purports to be a venue for thoughtful conversation has supposedly turned into a rumor mill, recklessly making incendiary assertions about Charlie Kirk without any supporting evidence. It was like witnessing a blindfolded person juggling fiery swords. Until it all breaks down, it's spectacular. The paradox at the center of it all was highlighted by Rogan. As a qualified attorney, Sunny Hostin should have been aware of the dangers of making audacious, unsubstantiated assertions live on television. However, it seemed to follow logic and take a pause when the cameras began to roll. Rogan called out a politician in the middle of a scandal, exposing this hypocrisy with the flair of a stand-up comic. This time, amusing. They pointed directly to a serious legal risk.
I had to read the thing about The View because I just thought it was funny.
What's
That's
the
the
View?
only reason why I read that about me.
Dragon lover.
Joy Behar was trying to say that I believe in dragons.
Wait, what is this? I just heard about it.
I checked it. And the lady goes, did you double check it? She goes, I checked it. He believes in dragons.
Should be like
you think
Sasquatch,
they lived alongside
bitch.
people.
Wait,
it was from a wildlife biologist who came on my podcast. It was from Forrest Gallant. Gallant? How do I say his last name? Great guy. I love him. He's awesome. But
Rocky
he
and
was
Jay.
saying...
However, the sarcasm that followed was really brilliant. Rogan portrayed the situation as a group of incompetent pundits carelessly hurling allegations like confetti at a New Year's celebration. At first it could appear amusing, but after, while it turns into a chaotic mass that suffocates the space and leaves cleanup to someone else. However, the humor was more than just lightheartedness. There was a purposeful edge to Rogan's ridicule. He was able to gently change the subject by drawing attention to the ridiculousness and exaggeration of Sunny Hostin's remarks, as well as the lawsuit. Charlie Kirk, who had previously appeared to be the aggressor, began to feel more like the victim of an illegal media circus. Rogan's viral takedown completely changed the perception of the group, making them seem more like a legal nightmare waiting to happen than they had intended to emerge as champions of justice and truth. There was a sudden and dramatic change in public opinion. Rogan shifted the focus of the discussion from the visually striking number of 100 million to a more profound and unsettling query. When making grave accusations concerning public personalities, how responsible should TV hosts be? Furthermore, nobody failed to note the irony that a host of a podcast from a platform that is frequently perceived as unvarnished and unpolished was the one criticizing a well-produced major talk show for being careless.
This is right after she was saying, we are run by ABC News. You should trust us, not Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons. So she by saying we should trust them because they're double checked by ABC News, and then making the stupidest fucking statement. Like you didn't listen to what I said.
Yeah.
You didn't listen to what the wildlife out, and that's only a part of what he said.
I can't believe
the other
Joy
part of what he
Behar
said
didn't
was
wait.
there was something before that where he was explaining encounters with giant reptiles. And then there's also, listen,
It doesn't make sense to me that a middle-aged woman could be dumb.
when you're worried about losing your job and you're worried about podcasts taking over and who's the source of.
There was more to Joe Rogan's vicious roast than just amusement. It served as a bat extended far beyond the actual lawsuit. It also leads us to the wider picture. Daytime television and public conversation may be about to undergo a significant change. If this case teaches us anything, with a warning, legal repercussions are quite real in this high-stakes game. Instead of just trending hashtags, hosts who formerly dismissed serious claims like buzzer sounds on a game show would soon be signing off on million-dollar settlements. This whole conflict may force talk shows to reassess their entire business model. It's possible that the days of indiscriminately sharing opinions without doing any research are over. Imagine a situation when a host is forced to cut off their rant in the middle, not because a producer requests it, but rather because their legal staff is nervously raising concerns behind the scenes. This case may serve as the regulatory hammer that makes media organizations exercise greater caution, particularly when combining pop culture and politics. Any day, this combination is explosive. However, a more significant change is taking place. Here, Rogan's part in this drama clearly marks a shift in the balance of power in the media. Millions of active followers on independent platforms are no longer background noise. They are now the major attraction when someone like Rogan publicly takes a side, confronts a major network show, and humiliates a popular host. It sends shockwaves across the industry. It is evidence that the old media's stranglehold on power and influence is eroding. The shiny walls of corporate studios are no longer the only place where public opinion exists.
Their audience is a group of people they bring in to watch television shows. You know, I don't know if you've ever seen audiences before for TV shows, but a lot of them are paid. They're paid to be there. So, because they have to guarantee that there's going to be people there. So there's services that you hire. And when a show gets really, really popular, you know, like Letterman or something like that, obviously it has its own fan base.
Right.
Those people will try to get tickets before anybody else does. And in that case, they probably don't need to use a service anymore. They just get actual fans. But arguably, like, the fans, the real fans of The View that are like, oh, these ladies are on point. Most of those people can't leave the house. Like, they're probably immobile.
The twist that adds even more juiciness is about to happen. Is there a chance that this lawsuit will fail? Large-scale legal disputes are similar to high-stakes poker. There are instances when it's a bluff, when it's all in, and when you leave with only regret. A torrent of lawsuits from people who feel offended by careless remarks may be encouraged if The View's team made a mistake, which could have a chilling effect on free expression. However, if Charlie Kirk's case is unsuccessful, it could convey the opposite message, that it is not worth the effort to take on media behemoths. Speaking up demonstrates greater freedom to do so without worrying about the repercussions. In any case, the delicate balance between accountability and freedom of speech is going to become much more intense. What comes next? Then, legal insiders anticipate new filings, possible countersuits, and possibly even unanticipated witnesses or information that might completely derail the case. Takes on social media will skyrocket. There will be more independent voices joining the debate. Additionally, this fallout may change how viewers perceive and trust daytime television. One thing is obvious: this legal settlement is not a backroom deal. There are too many questions, twists, and stakes in this daring, attention-grabbing matchup to overlook. Will The View be held accountable for its handling of scandal at last? Will become a massive legal drama that changes the way daytime talk programs function? Or will Joe Rogan continue to show off his media power and shape the terms of engagement for mainstream media? The story is far from over, in one form or another. The View and Sunny Hostin have not spoken at all thus far, and no news release could ever express what that stillness conveys. Charlie Kirk's lawsuit, however, is still generating a lot of serious discussion, and money isn't the only factor at play. The goal is to establish a precedent. Media stars may start to reconsider their remarks if they learn that a single word might cost millions of dollars. Or perhaps the mayhem only gets worse as each new lawsuit becomes the next sensational public controversy. What then? Will this forced discussion make people more intelligent, observant, and responsible? Will a tsunami of like-minded voices prepared to question the status quo be sparked by Rogan's candid commentary? One thing is definite no matter what. For all the wrong or perhaps all the right reasons, daytime television has suddenly become a must-watch show. Because it is obvious that the game has changed when Joe Rogan uses nothing more than a microphone and a spotlight to defeat a seasoned legal analyst like Sunny Hostin, and this is just the start. Don't believe that daytime conversation is merely celebrity small talk and fluff, without a single in-person encounter. The courtroom drama can end up being the most captivating thing on film because the stakes are so high and the hits so genuine. You won't want to miss a single savage, so pay attention.